This notion of God and the relational dimension of God in our faith, this is one of the places I'm grateful for a lot of our Christian theological tradition, including things that used to cause me a lot of problems. I used to really stumble over the notion of God as Trinity, as three persons in one, as Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. And now I've come to really largely accept some of that as simply a mystery, but to hold on to some of the other beauty in it. And part of what I love about the image of God is the Trinity, is it means that the very essence of God is built around relationship. This notion of the very, very being of God is a relationship between Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. And the ancient church captured this beautifully by some images of three angels dancing together as the image of God as the Trinity, that it's a relational dimension. What that means for me is that for we as humans created in the image of God, we're fundamentally relational people. We're created to be in relationship. It connects so beautifully with the discoveries of science in the 20th century. Biology discovered the realm of ecology, that everything that is in life is interrelated and connected. It's one of the reason I love the story of evolution, because it means all of life is connected in the present, but it's connected to all of life that's come before as well. We're part of a family tree of life of interconnectedness. And physicists have seen this too in our notion of physics, that everything in the universe affects everything else in the universe. So whether you come from the side of faith, understanding of God as everything is relatedness, or through the side of story of science, that everything is related fundamentally, they both come together to give this image that we are really intimately and inherently related to all that is. And for me, I experience that most deeply within the Christian biblical story, but it's informed by the story of science and everything else. Yeah, I was thinking about this. Is the one area that I wanted to talk about still, is this love of earth and love of neighbor, because for me these are the two central things in the biblical vision. In the field in which I teach in environmental studies, we call this, I think, ecological justice. This notion that we need to love the earth and live sustainably on the earth so all of the earth can flourish, but we need to love our neighbor as ourselves, and that's a strong message of social justice and liberation. And those come together for me in the Christian gospel. So we see Jesus preaching his first sermon is coming to preach good news to the poor and to set free the oppressed, and that defining so much of his ministry. But the poor are so oftentimes the ones who live most closely, most lightly on the earth. They're so dependent on the earth. They know the earth intimately, but their lives depend on the well-being of the earth. And when the earth is mistreated, it's the poor usually who suffer. And so this is, every year I take a group of students to Central America, and we spend time in the villages with poor people. This last year we were in Guatemala. And the students are always so impressed with how deeply the poor love the earth, know the earth, but their lives are also dependent on the earth. This year we were in Guatemala when Tropical Storm Agatha hit, and it was really truly devastating for the country. Over 200,000 people lost their homes, became homeless, and over a couple hundred people died. And the students were really aware that it was the poor, it was the marginalized ones who already have so little margin for error, that they were the ones who were suffering this tremendous impact, and the earth was washing away because we had degraded the earth. Similarly, we're right on the 5th anniversary of Hurricane Katrina, and people who remember that it was the poor of New Orleans, especially poor people of color, who were most impacted by that hurricane. And that hurricane in large part damaged New Orleans so much because we degraded the wetlands. There was no buffer zone between the Gulf of Mexico and New Orleans, and so the hurricane, the storm surge came in full. So this loving the earth, loving the neighbor, taking care of the earth, taking care of our neighbor, I think are really deeply linked in the Christian faith and what we're called to do. So social justice, environmental sustainability have to be linked together.